Chapter 1, The Alpha of Shadows. The wind clawed at Thornecliff's battlements, cold and sharp as regret. Raine stood alone above the sleeping keep, eyes fixed on the black forest stretching to the horizon. The scent of rain, and something stranger, drifted from the human lands. It wasn't right. Even so, he hid the unease curling through his chest. And Alpha never flinched. "What's wrong with the wind tonight?" one of the sentries asked. Raine's voice was steady, clipped. "The wind is fine. Stay sharp." Still, his pulse betrayed him. Because of that, he tightened his grip on the stone ledge until the rough edges bit into his palm. Deep down, he knew the truth. Something ancient stirred beneath the moon's watch. The air carried its whisper. By the time he turned away, the sky had shifted. Clouds moved like restless beasts, and the moon hung heavy, too red, too alive. Maybe it was fate, the weight pressing on him since the dreams began. Silver eyes in the dark. A voice calling his name through fire. He told no one. Instead, he walked the wall again, every sense stretched thin. Beneath the armor of command, his thoughts spun. What scared him more, the prophecy's shadow or his own craving to believe it was real? The scent came again. Sweet, wild, unmistakably wolf, yet laced with something human. His body moved on instinct. "Open the western gate," he ordered. "Double patrols." A beat later, thunder rolled over the valley like a warning drum. The guards scattered, their boots echoing against stone. But Raine remained, staring at the moon bleeding through the clouds. As the silence stretched, he whispered, "What are you trying to tell me?" The moon offered no answer, only light that felt like a gaze. That night the dream returned. A faceless woman stood beneath the same crimson sky, her voice trembling like wind through glass. "Raine," she whispered. "The moon is watching." And just like that, everything changed. Chapter 2, The Council's Warning. By the time dawn painted the keep in pale gold, Raine was already in the council hall. Shadows clung to the high beams, refusing to leave. His advisors waited, tense and wary. "The signs are clear, my lord," Elder Thalen said. "Tides rising. Wolves vanishing. You must take a Luna before the devouring moon." Raine's jaw flexed. "Prophecies don't rule this pack." "I do." Still, the words scraped his throat raw. Because he'd seen it, the same omens, the same red moon bleeding into his dreams. What's worse, he felt something shift in the night sky, as though destiny itself had leaned closer. "You've ignored the visions too long," another counselor snapped. "If the curse awakens, all of Thornecliff will fall." Raine rose slowly. His presence filled the room like thunder held in flesh. "I will not choose a mate because the stars tremble," he said. "Fear makes fools of wolves. I will not be one." Even so, his voice faltered on the last word. The council bowed, but their eyes were heavy with doubt. Truth be told, so was his heart. Moments later, a scout burst through the chamber doors. "My lord, Border Patrol found signs near the Forbidden Ridge. A lone she-wolf. The scent is unusual." The air thickened. Raine's instincts surged, hot and immediate. "Unusual how?" "She carries no clan scent." "But she bled, sire. Human blood." In the span of a breath, his control cracked. "Prepare the riders," he said. "We hunt tonight." As the scout fled, Raine looked up at the mural carved into the ceiling, wolves bowing beneath a bleeding moon. He'd mocked those tales once. Now the carving felt like a mirror. Between one heartbeat and the next, he knew this was only the beginning. Chapter 3, The Hunt in the Pines. That night the forest breathed. Mist clung to the roots like ghosts, and every sound seemed louder beneath the swollen moon. Raine rode at the head of his pack, the thud of hooves echoing through the pines. "Spread out," he ordered. "No mercy for intruders." Even so, something in his chest rebelled. The scent on the wind, sweet, wild, heartbreakingly familiar, pulled at him. With every heartbeat, his wolf stirred. Her wolf. Though he didn't yet know her name, his soul recognized it. A branch snapped ahead. His horse reared. Raine dismounted, shifting fluidly into the half-form. Muscles tensed, eyes glowing amber. "Come out," he growled, voice deep enough to shake leaves from their stems. No answer. Only silence thick enough to suffocate thought. Then the smell of blood. Fresh. Human. He followed it down a ravine, the mist parting around him like breath. What followed was chaos. An overturned cloak, torn fabric, and a faint, trembling hum from the earth itself. Raine crouched, fingers brushing the blood-stained cloth. Heat flared up his arm, sharp as lightning. The moon above seemed to tremble. "Alpha," one of his men called. "We've lost the trail." "Fall back," Raine said quietly. "I'll handle the rest." Because of that, he stood alone beneath the whispering pines, staring at the fabric in his hand. It smelled like wild honey and smoke, like the dreams that haunted him. Her scent. As the wind shifted, he looked up. For an instant, he swore he saw a figure among the trees, barefoot, pale, eyes like silver fire. Before he could move, she was gone. But the moon, it hummed his name. Chapter 4, The Captive Revealed. Come morning, the keep echoed with shouts. They'd found her, half-conscious, fevered, wrapped in the same cloak he'd touched. Raine descended the stairs 2 at a time, every sense alive with instinct and dread. When the guards dragged her into the hall, time stilled. Her hair clung to her face, tangled and dark with blood. Yet beneath the grime, she was radiant, feral beauty wrapped in defiance. "Name?" Raine demanded. Her lips parted. "Selene." The moment their eyes locked, the world tilted. The mate bond struck like lightning, raw and absolute. His chest burned. Her pulse raced in answer. "You trespassed on sacred ground," he said, but his voice shook. "Then kill me," she whispered. "Or let me go." Her words cut through him, sharp as a blade. He stepped closer, too close. The scent of her hit him again, intoxicating. His wolf howled beneath his skin. Instead of answering, he turned away. "Chain her." "No one touches her but me." The guards hesitated. He didn't explain why. How could he? Because of her, his control was unraveling. Because of her, the moon itself had changed. As the chains clinked into place, Selene's gaze followed him. "You dream of me," she said softly. Raine froze. "How do you know that?" She smiled, faint and knowing. "Because I dream of you too." The air thickened, humming like a heartbeat shared between 2 souls. Beneath the moonlight streaming through the hall, something ancient stirred, something that had waited lifetimes to wake. And when the moon flared red above Thornecliff Keep, Raine understood one thing: the prophecy had already begun. Chapter 5, The Bond Recognized. The dungeon beneath Thornecliff Keep reeked of damp stone and iron. Torches hissed in their sconces, casting orange halos across the cell where Selene sat, chained, barefoot, yet unbroken. Her silver eyes reflected every flicker of flame as though she were forged from moonlight itself. Alpha Raine stood before the bars, arms folded, every inch the ruler his pack feared and revered. Yet tonight he felt none of that power. Only the pull, ancient, magnetic, that thrummed between them like a heartbeat. "You crossed my borders," he said at last, voice low and measured. "You trespassed into my lands, wearing another pack's scent." Selene's gaze didn't waver. "I ran from my lands," she said. "And from monsters that call themselves alphas." The words hit harder than he expected. His jaw flexed, the phantom of her scent stirring something primal in him. Pine smoke, moonfire, and fear. Not hers. "You're no prisoner," he lied, stepping closer. "But you will stay until I know what you are." Her laughter was quiet, bitter. "You know what I am, Raine." You felt it too. The air thickened, charged. The bond pulsed, a silver thread tightening around their souls. His wolf clawed beneath his skin, whispering, "Mine." He turned away sharply. "You mistake instinct for destiny." "Then why does it burn when you look at me?" she asked. The question struck like a blade. He couldn't answer. Wouldn't. Instead, he slammed the cell door shut and ordered the guards. No one enters. No one speaks to her. But when the echo of his boots faded down the corridor, he realized his pulse still matched hers, as if even the dungeon walls couldn't sever what fate had already sealed. That night, when sleep came, it brought her voice again. Whispering beneath a bleeding moon, calling his name not in fear but in recognition. And for the first time Raine did not wake with dread. He woke with longing. Chapter 6. The Moon's Omen. The full moon rose the following night, swollen and red as blood. Stormlight crawled along the stones of Thornecliff Keep, and the air grew heavy, humming with a strange energy. Raine descended again to the dungeon, drawn by an instinct he refused to name. Selene stood at the center of her cell, chains slack around her wrists. The torches had gone out, yet silver light poured over her from nowhere, from her. "What are you doing?" he demanded, though the question sounded small against the whispering dark. She lifted her head slowly. Her eyes glowed white. "It's not me," she breathed. "It's her." The moon spoke through her, a voice both inside and outside the world. "The devouring comes. What is broken will be remade. The wolf that resists the bond will drown in his own shadow." Raine stumbled back, claws itching beneath his skin. "Stop it," he snarled, more to himself than her. But Selene's chains rattled, light bleeding from her skin. The cell door shuddered, not from her strength but from the presence that filled the room. Then, as suddenly as it began, the light died. She collapsed, breath ragged. Raine caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was fever-hot, her pulse wild beneath his hand. "Selene," he whispered, shaking her gently. "What have you done?" Her eyelids fluttered. "I didn't call her," she murmured. "She came for you." His heart hammered, not with rage but terror. Because deep down Raine knew the truth. The prophecy wasn't chasing her. It was chasing him. Chapter 7. The Choice of Chains. At dawn, the council assembled in the great hall. 6 alphas from allied territories, all bristling with fear. They demanded answers, demanded blood. "She's the harbinger," one spat. "The devouring mate." The moon's omen was clear. "Execute her before the next moonrise," said another. "Spare your pack her curse." Raine sat in silence, the fire casting sharp gold across his face. Every instinct screamed to obey logic, to sever this bond before it unraveled everything. But when he looked up, truly looked, he saw her standing at the back of the hall, flanked by guards. Pale, defiant, and so unbearably alive. "No," he said at last, voice like thunder. "She lives." Gasps rippled through the chamber. "I'll keep her under my watch," he continued, rising from his chair. "If the moon sent her, then she'll answer to me, not the council." The oldest counselor stepped forward. "Raine, you defy the will of prophecy." He met the man's eyes. "I defy nothing. I command it." When the hall emptied, Raine stood alone in the echoing silence. He felt the weight of every gaze that would call him a fool, a cursed alpha. Yet when he looked toward the doorway where Selene had stood moments ago, he felt something else entirely. Not doom. Destiny. Outside, the moon whispered through the morning haze, this time in his own voice. Chapter 8. The Wolf in the Keep. The walls of Thornecliff Keep had never felt so alive, or so restless. Whispers slipped through every corridor, curling beneath doors and over candlelight. The cursed Luna. The omen in chains. Selene stood by the arched window of her new quarters, watching mist crawl over the valley below. Freedom had been replaced by velvet captivity, her chamber gilded with courtesy and guarded by fear. She could smell it on the soldiers outside her door, sharp and sour. When Raine entered, the scent shifted. Authority. Storm. The kind of presence that filled the room before he spoke. "You've been moved from the dungeons," he said, his tone clipped, almost defensive. You'll remain here until the council's verdict is finalized. Verdict? Her voice was low, steady. I thought you made that choice. His eyes flickered, a storm caught behind restraint. My word holds, but not all would honor it. For now this keeps you safe. She gave a quiet laugh. A gilded cage is still a cage. Raine's jaw tightened, yet he said nothing. He should have turned and left, returned to the order and silence that had once defined him. But instead, he lingered, watching her trace the moonlight that spilled across the stone. It struck him that she belonged there more than he ever had. Finally he said, "There are things about you I need to understand." She turned to face him. "Then stop looking at me like I'm a curse." The words hit him harder than claws. He wanted to speak, to explain that he was trying to protect her, from the prophecy, from Cale, from himself. But the truth stuck in his throat like ash. Outside, a raven's cry echoed over the mountains. Raine looked up sharply. "A messenger," he murmured. "From Cale." The shadows in his gaze deepened. And though Selene didn't know it yet, that single message would change the course of everything. Chapter 9. The Threat of Cale. The great hall smelled of iron and parchment when the raven was brought in. Its leg bore a seal pressed with black wax. A crescent moon cracked through the center. Raine's grip hardened as he broke it. "To the Alpha who defies fate," the message began, written in a hand he knew too well. "Your Luna's shadow grows. The devouring comes. When it does, you will kneel or burn." Cale's words were both prophecy and promise. Raine crushed the parchment in his fist. "He knows," he muttered. "He always knows." From the corner of the room, Selene spoke softly. "Cale, you knew him." He turned sharply. He hadn't heard her enter. She stood framed in the doorway, her bare feet silent against the marble, her presence like the calm before thunder. "He was my brother," Raine admitted, each word bitter as blood. "By oath, not blood. We trained together under the same moon rites. He believed the prophecy, that the Luna of our line would end us. When the omens began, he turned to the darker half of the moon." Selene stepped closer. "And now he thinks I'm the weapon." "No," Raine said, but too quickly. His gaze faltered. "He thinks we are." A quiet settled between them, heavy, charged. Her scent brushed against him, stirring that wild, dangerous pulse again. "You can't keep me locked away," she said. "You need me to face him." He almost laughed. "You think I'd bring you to war?" Her chin lifted, silver eyes gleaming. "I think you already have." Outside, thunder rolled across the peaks. Inside, Raine realized the war had already begun, and not just with Cale. It had begun the moment he met her gaze and didn't look away. Chapter 10. The Power Unleashed. It began with an argument. Most things between them did. "You don't understand," Raine snapped, pacing across her chamber. "The moon's voice in you isn't power, it's corruption. Cale's darkness feeds on it." Selene stood firm, her hands trembling though her voice did not. "And what would you know about corruption, Alpha? You cage what you fear until it rots. I'm protecting you." "From what?" she shouted. "From yourself." Silence struck like lightning. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, breath quickening. The air in the room shifted, electric, trembling. The silver light outside brightened, responding to her pulse. "Selene," Raine warned, sent sharp with dominance. "Calm your wolf." But she couldn't. Wouldn't. "You want control so badly you've forgotten what it means to feel." And with that, her power broke loose. The air exploded into light. The iron rings that bound her wrists shattered, molten shards scattering like fireflies. Moonlight poured from her body, washing over the stone, wild, raw, alive. Raine staggered back, his wolf roaring inside him in awe and terror. "Selene." He lunged forward, catching her before she collapsed. Her eyes flickered, bright silver fading to gray. "You said the moon's power was corruption," she whispered weakly, trembling in his arms. So why did she answer me when I chose to feel? Raine stared down at her, breath ragged. In that moment he understood, this was no prophecy's curse. This was revelation. And as he lifted her, the weight of his own control felt like chains breaking one by one. Chapter 11, A Fragile Trust. The courtyard of Thornecliff smelled of rain and steel. Soldiers sparred under gray skies while whispers chased through the air. About the Luna who had shattered her chains, about the Alpha who hadn't punished her. Raine stood at the balcony above them, watching Selene move among the wounded. She knelt beside a young wolf nursing a torn flank, her hands glowing faintly with moonlight. The boy's breathing steadied under her touch. The pack, once fearful, began to bow their heads when she passed. She didn't see what Raine saw, the way even the light seemed to follow her now. He descended the stairs quietly. "You shouldn't waste your energy on healing," he said, though his voice lacked its usual edge. "You're still recovering." Selene didn't look up. "I don't waste it. I return what was taken." Raine hesitated, torn between awe and unease. "They think you're blessed." She smiled faintly. "And you?" "I think you're dangerous," he murmured, not as a threat but a truth that shook him. She finally met his gaze. "Maybe danger is what your world needs." Something softened in him then. For a heartbeat, he let himself imagine what it would be like if she truly belonged here, not as a prisoner, not as a curse, but as his equal. The thought terrified him more than prophecy ever had. Thunder rumbled across the peaks, distant but growing closer. One of his guards rushed in, bowing. "My lord, scouts report Kale's banners on the northern ridge." The storm had arrived. Raine looked to Selene. She was already standing, eyes glowing faintly silver. "Then it begins," she said. And for the first time he didn't argue. Chapter 12, The Midpoint Revelation. The War Council chamber glowed with torchlight, maps spread across the obsidian table. Raine's generals argued over tactics, over omens, over fear. But his attention was fixed on an ancient scroll unfurled before him, inked in blood and silver. He'd found it buried deep within Thorncliff's archives, older than any known rite. The script shimmered faintly as though alive beneath the moonlight. Selene entered quietly. "You haven't slept." "I don't sleep," Raine replied absently. "Not since the moon started whispering your name in my dreams." She stepped closer. The scroll's light reflected in her eyes. "What does it say?" He hesitated, then read aloud. "When the Luna of Shadow meets the Alpha of Storm, the moon shall devour its children, not in death, but in rebirth. From their union shall rise the dawn." Selene frowned. "That's not destruction. It's transformation." Raine met her gaze, voice low. "I built my whole life trying to stop a ruin that was never meant to destroy me, only to change me." The truth struck like lightning. Every fear, every chain, every wall he'd built was against something meant to free him. He exhaled, almost laughing, but the sound caught in his throat. The devouring moon wasn't a curse. It was a promise. Selene's hand brushed his. "Then maybe it's time you stop fighting the promise." For the first time he didn't pull away. Their bond flared between them, heat and gravity. The air thickened with scent and pulse. He could feel her heartbeat answering his own. Before he could speak, a horn sounded from the walls, sharp, urgent. Kale's forces had arrived. Raine straightened, voice steady again, though his heart thundered. "Whatever this prophecy meant, we'll face it together." Selene nodded, fierce light in her eyes. Together. The moon turned red above them, not as omen but as witness. Chapter 13, Blood and Moonfire. The battle began beneath a scarlet sky. Kale's army poured from the treeline, wolves cloaked in shadow, eyes burning white. The air itself crackled with corrupted moonlight. Raine led from the front, silver armor glinting. His sword flashed like lightning as he met Kale's vanguard. The world became claws, teeth, and fire. He felt Selene's power behind him, a tide of silver flame that seared through darkness. For every strike he landed, she shielded those who faltered. But Cale was no mere alpha anymore. He emerged from the chaos, his eyes black pits of lunar corruption. "Brother," he roared, "you've brought the curse home." Raine turned, chest heaving. "You brought it upon yourself." They clashed, the impact shaking the ground. Cale's blade struck deep, moonfire laced with shadow. Raine fell to one knee, pain blazing through his side. Selene's scream tore through the din. She ran to him, her hands glowing bright as stars. "Don't you dare leave me," she cried. Cale laughed, spreading his arms. "See? The prophecy fulfills itself. The Alpha dies by his Luna's hand." But as Selene pressed her palms to Raine's wound, the moonfire turned to light, pure, cleansing, divine. Her power surged, entwining with his. Every heartbeat became a vow, every breath a bond reforged. The sky cracked open in silver brilliance. Cale staggered back, blinded. When the light faded, Raine rose, eyes burning silver, wounds sealed, power renewed. Selene stood beside him, her aura intertwined with his. Alpha and Luna, storm and moon united. Together they drove Cale's forces back into the forest. The ground smoked with moonfire and blood. When the battle ended, Raine turned to her, voice hoarse. "You saved me." Selene touched his cheek, her fingers trembling. "No, Raine. We saved each other." He caught her hand and held it there, against his heart. Above them, the moon bled back into silver, its light no longer devouring but reborn. Chapter 14. The Mark of Equals. Dawn broke over Thornecliff like a wound mending itself. The battlefield below still smoked from the night's fury, broken weapons, scorched banners, and the faint shimmer of moonfire fading from the earth. Selene stood at the ramparts, blood and light streaked across her skin. Her power pulsed faintly beneath the surface, unsettled, as if the moon still whispered through her veins. Raine approached quietly, every step measured. The wind carried his scent, cedar, storm, and something new, calm. "You didn't sleep," he said. She gave a weary smile. "Neither did you." He stopped beside her, eyes on the horizon. "They call you Luna now. Even the old ones bow when you pass." "I never asked for that." "No," Raine said softly. "You earned it." Their silence stretched, filled with unspoken truths. Then Raine turned to her, his voice low. "I was raised to believe an Alpha's bond was control, power over another. But you," he shook his head. "You've undone everything I thought I knew." Selene met his gaze, searching. "Then what do you believe now?" "That power isn't dominance," he said, "it's trust." For a heartbeat, the world stilled. Then Raine drew a small blade from his belt, silver etched with runes. "Our bond was forged by prophecy," he said, "but I would see it sealed by choice." He cut his palm and offered her the blade. Selene hesitated, then mirrored his action. Their blood mingled as their hands met, red and silver, storm and moon. The mark burned into their skin, not as a collar but a promise. "Equal in strength," Raine whispered. "Bound in will," Selene finished. Together, they set as one. The moon above them flared white, blessing the vow. When they drew apart, the marks shimmered faintly between their palms, an unbreakable sigil. It wasn't the mark of ownership. It was the mark of equals. But far to the north, beneath the shadowed mountains, Cale's laughter carried on the wind. Chapter 15. Shadows of the Past. The celebration of survival turned swiftly to unrest. The wounded whispered of omens, of Cale's retreat into the ruins of Lunaris Keep, the birthplace of the first Alpha. Selene walked the halls of Thornecliff restlessly. The moon's mark on her hand glowed faintly whenever she neared the ancient doors, whispering something she couldn't understand. That night, she dreamed again, of silver chains coiling through darkness, of a woman's voice crying her name. Selene, the curse was never the prophecy. It was the lie that bound it. She woke gasping, the mark on her palm searing with heat. Raine was already there, his eyes sharp. You saw her again, didn't you? Selene nodded. The Moon Mother. She said the prophecy was twisted. That someone changed it. Raine frowned. Cale. He believes he's the true Alpha, the one destined to devour the Moon's children. But what if he already has? Raine's jaw tightened. Then we ended at the source. He turned to his captains, summoning them with a growl. Prepare the packs. We march at dawn for Lunaris Keep. Selene grabbed his wrist. Raine, this isn't just war anymore. It's truth. Whatever lies at that ruin will change everything. His gaze softened for a moment. Then we'll face it together. Outside, thunder rolled, the herald of the storm gathering beyond their walls. Chapter 16. March of Storm and Moon. The army of Thornecliff moved under a sky split by lightning. Wolves in silver armor filled the mountain passes, their howls echoing like hymns. Selene rode at Raine's side, her cloak gleaming faintly with lunar silk. The pack bowed their heads as they passed, not to an Alpha, not to a Luna, but to two forces united. Halfway through the pass, Raine halted. Scouts approached, dragging a bound figure, a witch robed in black moonlight. She bears Cale's sigil, the scout said. Caught spying. Selene knelt before the woman. Why follow us? The witch's eyes gleamed. Because you carry the key, she hissed, staring at Selene's mark. Cale does not seek your death, Luna. He seeks your surrender. Raine stepped forward, voice cold. He'll have neither. But the witch smiled, blood trickling down her lips. You already walk into his hands. The ruins of Lunaris are not his stronghold. They are his trap. Before they could speak, her body convulsed, and dissolved into ash scattered on the wind. The pack fell silent. Selene looked at Raine. He's been waiting for us. Then he'll get us, Raine said grimly, drawing his sword, but not the way he thinks. The moon rose full and pale above them, casting light over the mountains. In its glow their marks pulsed as one, a warning and a promise. They rode on. Chapter 17. The Ruins of Lunaris. The ruins waited like the bones of a god. Moonlight fractured over shattered stone and pools of still water that reflected nothing back. The air pulsed, thick, unnatural, heavy with the scent of silver and ash. Selene dismounted first, her eyes drawn to the obsidian obelisk rising from the center. Symbols older than language spiraled across it, a story carved in pain. The first Alpha was born here, Raine murmured, his voice hushed by reverence and dread. And the first curse. Selene touched the stone. Cold burned her fingertips. A vision slammed into her, wolves bowing beneath a red moon, a woman's scream swallowed by fire, a vow twisted into prophecy. The mate who loves the Alpha will destroy him, unless she learns to love freely. Her breath caught. Raine, the prophecy wasn't a warning. It was a spell. Before Raine could respond, the ground trembled. From the shadows stepped Cale, his armor glinting with the sheen of corrupted moonlight. Beautiful, isn't it? Cale said. The place where gods and beasts became one. Raine's growl rumbled low. You defile the moon's name. Cale smiled, cold, predatory. No. I'm restoring it. You've forgotten what it means to rule, Raine. Omegas were never meant to stand beside Alphas. His gaze slid to Selene. Especially not her. Selene stepped forward. You twist the prophecy to justify your cruelty. It was never about power. Cale's eyes glowed silver white. Everything is about power. Then the moon turned red. Chapter 18. The Breaking of the Alpha. The trap sprung. The ruins erupted in blinding lunar fire as Cale's magic surged. Shadows peeled from the stones, spectral wolves, their eyes hollow, their howls shredding the air. Raine drew his sword, meeting Cale's strike head-on. The clash of metal and magic split the night, but Cale's strength was monstrous, unnatural, drawn directly from the moon's corrupted core. Selene fought beside him, her own power thrumming through the bond. But the moonfire began turning wild, slipping beyond her control. "Selene!" Raine shouted, deflecting a spectral claw. "You're burning too hot. I can hold it. You'll kill yourself. Then let me burn." Lightning cracked. Her aura exploded, and the spectral army vanished in a flare of silver. For a heartbeat the battlefield went still. Then Cale struck. His blade, forged in cursed silver, pierced Raine's side. Time stopped. Raine gasped, blood dark against his armor. Selene screamed, catching him as he fell. Cale stood over them, eyes wild with triumph. "It's begun. The mate brings the Alpha's ruin." Selene's power trembled violently, the mark on her palm blazing white-hot. The moon responded, its light warping into crimson. Cale's voice dripped with venom. "The prophecy cannot be broken. You were born to destroy him." Selene pressed her forehead to Raine's. "No," she whispered. "Not destroy. Save." Raine's hand gripped hers weakly. "Run." "I won't," she said fiercely. "Not again." Cale raised his blade for the final strike. Then Selene's power erupted, a tidal wave of moonlight that shattered the ground. The world dissolved into light. Chapter 19. The Dark Night of the Soul. Silence. When Selene opened her eyes, she was alone. The ruins lay in ruins once more, charred and broken. The sky was black, the moon gone. "Raine?" Her voice cracked. She searched the wreckage, heart pounding. Only echoes answered. Then faintly she felt it. Their bond, weak and fading like a heartbeat underwater. She followed it through the wreckage until she found him, buried beneath stone, his blood staining the earth silver. Selene fell to her knees. "No. No, no, no." His eyes fluttered open barely. "Selene." She clutched his face, tears streaking through soot. "I can fix this." "The moon." "She's gone," Raine whispered. "You used her light to save me. You broke the connection." Selene shook her head. "Then I'll bring it back." He smiled faintly even through pain. "You can't fight destiny." "I'm not fighting it," she said, voice trembling. "I'm rewriting it." He exhaled a ragged breath, fingers brushing her cheek. "You were my ruin, the best kind." Then his hand fell still. Selene's scream split the night. The mark on her palm went dark. She felt the moon die inside her. That night, under an empty sky, Selene buried the Alpha she loved. The prophecy had won. The moon's blessing was silence. And yet, as she stood before the ruins, numb and broken, the wind whispered through the stones, carrying one final echo of Raine's voice. "You were never meant to follow the moon, Selene. You were meant to become it." Her tears fell, glowing faintly. And for the first time the moon did not rise, because it was waiting for her. Chapter 20. The Wolf Ascends. The night was endless. The moon had vanished, leaving the world cold and still, a sky without breath, a heart without beat. Selene knelt at the ruins of Lunaris, her fingers tracing the scorched earth where Raine had fallen. The silence pressed against her skin until she could no longer bear it. "You said I was your ruin," she whispered, voice shaking. "Then let me be the ruin that remakes you." The air trembled. A faint pulse stirred through the bond, weak, flickering but alive. Her eyes snapped open. "Raine." The mark on her palm shimmered faintly, then flared, silver fire spilling through the cracks of her grief. Her heart pounded in rhythm with the moon's lost pulse. The stars above seemed to shiver, rearranging themselves into a pattern older than memory. "You were never meant to follow the moon," Raine's voice echoed faintly from within her. "You were meant to become it." Selene rose. Her power unfurled like wings, ribbons of moonfire cascading from her shoulders, her hair lifting in the celestial wind. The ruins around her came alive, ancient glyphs igniting as her blood answered the moon's silence. The sky split open. A new light dawned, not the moon reborn but her. The Luna ascendant. Selene's eyes burned pure silver as she whispered, "Come back to me." Miles away beneath Cale's obsidian fortress, a chained Raine gasped, his heart restarting, his blood glowing with the same silver flame. His eyes flew open. Selene. And the world began to change. Chapter 21, The Gathering Storm. Cale's fortress loomed like a wound in the world. Spires of black iron rose toward a bleeding sky, and the air stank of magic and rot. Cale stood upon the battlements, watching the horizon tremble. His corrupted wolves prowled restlessly below, an army bred from pain. Then he saw it, a silver light tearing through the forest, moving with purpose and wrath. "So the Luna rises," he murmured. "Let her come." Inside the dungeons Raine stirred. Chains bound his wrists, runes etched into his skin to weaken his bond. But now her power surged through him, a whisper, a promise, a command. "Hold on, my heart. I'm coming." Raine's wolf snarled awake. The runes cracked, silver light searing through the bindings. With a roar that shook the halls, he broke free. Outside, Selene approached the gates, every step ringing with defiance. The ground beneath her glowed silver, purifying the darkness. The corrupted wolves faltered, whimpering as their chains of magic disintegrated. "You're not his," Selene said softly. "You were never anyone's." They lowered their heads. One by one they stepped aside. The gates of Cale's fortress opened. Inside, Raine tore through the corridors, following the scent of her, wild, unyielding, alive. When they met at the grand stair, it felt like the world held its breath. Raine's voice broke the silence. "You came." Selene's eyes shimmered. "You thought death could keep me from you?" They collided, not in desperation but in destiny. The bond ignited fully, flooding the castle with white light. Together again. Not master and captive. Not prophecy and victim. But Alpha and Luna, one soul reborn in two hearts. Chapter 22, The Final Plan. They had only hours before the devouring moon's last eclipse, Cale's ritual of domination, meant to enslave all wolves under his will. Selene and Raine stood in the ruined throne hall, now glowing faintly with lunar energy. "We can't win by force," Selene said. "He feeds on conflict. Every act of violence makes him stronger." Raine studied her, quiet but resolute. "Then how do we end him?" Selene placed his hand over her heart. "By ending the cycle. We'll give him what he's always wanted, union. Not through power, but balance." He frowned slightly. "You mean?" "Yes," she whispered. "We merge our power, light and shadow. We show the moon that love doesn't devour. It transforms." For a moment, Raine hesitated, the last remnant of the Alpha who once feared losing control. Then he nodded. "Then we do it together." They clasped hands and the bond surged, weaving their essences into one luminous thread. As the eclipse began, the world darkened again. Cale's laughter echoed from the altar above. "You can't rewrite destiny." Selene looked up, her silver gaze calm. "Watch me." Chapter 23, The Altar of Fate. The altar was carved from bone and shadow, pulsing with crimson light. Cale stood atop it, cloak whipping in the wind, his eyes twin moons of corruption. "Welcome, my cursed children," he mocked. "Come to fulfill the prophecy?" Raine drew his blade. "To end it." Cale's laughter split the air as he unleashed the moon's dark energy, a torrent of red lightning. Selene stepped in front of Raine, her arms outstretched. The energy hit her, yet she did not burn, it bowed. "How?" Cale choked. Selene's voice resonated, both mortal and divine. "Because I am no longer bound to the moon. I am the moon." She turned to Raine. "With me." He took her hand, no hesitation. Their powers merged, his shadow and her light fusing into something neither dark nor bright, but whole. The energy swept outward in a tidal wave engulfing Cale. He screamed as the corrupted power he'd stolen was purified, turned against him. "You cannot kill me," he roared. Selene's eyes shone with fierce serenity. I'm not killing you. I'm releasing you. And with that, Kale's form dissolved into silver dust, carried away on the wind. The altar cracked. The moon above blazed back to life, whole, gentle, radiant. Selene fell to her knees, drained but alive. Raine caught her, his touch grounding her back to the world. You did it, he whispered. She smiled faintly. We did. Above them, the moon glowed white, reborn, watching over them with quiet approval. Chapter 24. The Climax. Moon Reborn. The first light of dawn broke over the valley, pale gold bleeding through the smoke of battle. Raine stood amid the ruins of Kale's altar, still holding Selene. Around them, the world shimmered with quiet wonder. The crimson haze that had once smothered the land dissolved into silver mist. The moon high above glowed pure again, not cold or cruel but calm. Watching. Forgiving. Selene stirred in his arms, eyes half open. Her pulse throbbed faintly against his chest. Is it over? She whispered. Raine glanced around. The battlefield was silent. The wolves who had fought under Kale's curse now lay still, not dead but freed. Their pelts no longer bore the blackened sigils of corruption. Instead, a faint silver sheen shimmered where shadow had once ruled. He exhaled shakily. Yes, it's over. But even as he spoke, something inside him trembled. The power he'd wielded, that merging of light and shadow, still lingered in his veins. It didn't burn. It hummed. Balanced. Oh. Selene looked up at him and smiled softly. You're not afraid of it anymore. Raine's hand brushed her cheek. Not when it brought me back to you. They stayed like that for a long moment, surrounded by the scent of new rain, the hush of dawn, and the quiet hum of a world reborn. When they finally rose, the first rays of sunlight struck the altar, turning its broken shards into crystal. The moonfire within them pulsed once, then faded, leaving only peace. The prophecy, Selene murmured, was never a curse. No, Raine said, voice low. It was a promise. Together they walked from the altar, step by step, through the remnants of chaos, into the light of a new world. Chapter 25. The Aftermath. By nightfall, the valley had quieted. Fires were doused. The wounded tended. The dead buried beneath the silver trees. Raine stood atop Thorncliff's outer wall, overlooking the field where once his army had bled. The keep still bore its scars, shattered towers, cracked stone, yet in the torchlight, it seemed to breathe again. Alive. Behind him, Selene moved softly, her footsteps whispering over the stone. You're rebuilding already, she said. He turned, faintly smiling. If I don't start now, the council will insist on rebuilding the old way, with fear and ranks. She stepped beside him. And you? I'll rebuild with trust. They looked out together over the gathering of wolves, packmates kneeling beside those who'd once been enemies, tending wounds side by side. Selene's power had purged the corruption from Kale's followers. Now they were simply wolves again, lost, ashamed but free. I used to think leadership was about control, Raine said quietly. Now I know it's about faith. Selene slipped her hand into his. You learned it the hardest way possible. He turned to her, the wind catching her silver hair, the moon painting her face in quiet grace. You taught it to me. They stood in silence, the pack below raising their heads to the sky. The moon shone gentle and whole, no longer a god to be feared but a light to be followed. A murmur rippled through the wolves, not of worship but of unity. The first true chorus of peace. Chapter 26. The New Dawn. Weeks later, Thornecliff stood restored, not as a fortress of stone and dominance, but as a sanctuary of balance. Gardens bloomed where barracks once stood. Children's laughter echoed through the halls. Selene walked through the courtyard, her skirts brushing dew-damp grass. Pups trailed behind her, listening as she told them tales of the moon and its lessons, of love chosen freely, of strength shared between equals. From the balcony above, Raine watched her, leaning on the rail. For the first time in years, his heart was quiet, not suppressed, not armored but whole. When she looked up and met his gaze, He descended the stairs slowly, the pack parting for him. At the courtyard center, he stopped before her. The pack gathered around, silent, reverent. Raine dropped to one knee. "Selene Varin," he said softly, "you were never my prisoner, never my prophecy. You were my choice." He drew from his belt a circlet of silver vines, woven from the purified shards of the altar. "Stand with me," he said, voice trembling, "as Luna, not beneath me, not behind me, but beside me." Selene's eyes glistened. She reached out, lifting him to his feet. "I already do." He set the circlet upon her head. The pack howled, not in mourning or fear but celebration. For the first time in history, an alpha crowned his Luna as equal. The moonlight fell gently upon them, neither harsh nor distant, but tender. Raine leaned close, his voice a whisper meant for her alone. "Fate did not devour me," he murmured. "It delivered me home." Selene smiled through tears, resting her forehead against his. "And this time," she whispered, "the moon will watch in peace." The pack's song rose higher, echoing across the mountains, a hymn not to power but to balance. To love that remade the world. Epilogue, beneath the moon reborn. Months passed. Spring returned, soft and golden. The scars of war faded beneath new blooms. In the courtyard of Thornecliff, Selene knelt among the children of the pack, showing them how to weave garlands of wildflowers. Their laughter rang like music, pure and unshadowed. Above them, the moon hung pale against a blue morning sky, no longer omen but guardian. From the balcony, Raine watched quietly, arms folded. His wolf rested within him, content. When Selene looked up and caught his gaze, he smiled, not the restrained smirk of an alpha, but the open warmth of a man who had finally found peace. He descended, joining her among the children. Together they stood beneath the moon's soft light, a world reborn through love freely chosen. The prophecy had not destroyed the alpha. It had delivered him and all his kind into a new dawn.